Have you ever worked with someone who you felt was excellent, was your go-to person, you felt was invaluable to your organization, to your team, but yet for some reason, they never get to the next level. They never get the acknowledgement. They never get the promotion. And you find yourself going, how did that person not get promoted? How is that person not getting recognized? What are they not doing? Is the manager not fighting? You're one of the first people after it doesn't happen that walks over or calls and says, I'm sorry, I don't get it. I just don't get it. You ever work with someone like that? Or maybe you are someone like that. You work your butt off. You feel like you're checking every single box in terms of the areas that were highlighted for you to develop. You get to mid-year, you feel like you are on your way. You have the great mid-year review. You start to believe this might be your year. And then as it gets closer and closer, there are some doubts that get thrown in. It's going to be a tough year. It's going to be a lean year. You're great, but just want to set your expectations. And so you start to feel it. You start to feel it happen. And what's worse is some years it goes right up into the end where you feel really confident, only to find out that you're going to be called in for the tough conversation. And yet another year will go by where it just doesn't happen. If you've known someone like that, or if you are someone who has had to deal with that or is dealing with that, let it sit for a minute because it has a name. It has a name. I call it almost chosen. And it has a real cost. And today we're going to talk about what being almost chosen actually costs for you or for the people you lead. And for the organizations that keep doing this, calling it business as usual. It's not. It's totally unacceptable. Hi, I'm Ed Clementi. I spent over 2 decades in financial services. I started out in 2004 as an executive assistant, and I set my sights on managing director. 9 years later, I was a managing director. Over the course of my career, I 40x'd my compensation. And I didn't do it by just letting things happen. And now I'm on a journey to help folks realize their full potential, not accept anything else, to help organizations understand how important leadership is. It's not just some nice to have development area. The most important investment any organization will make is developing their leaders. 25 years managing and understanding operational risks. One of the things that has become super clear to me is that many times those risks manifest from leadership decisions and behaviors under pressure. That's a risk that doesn't get named too often. I call it leadership risk. And I'm on a mission to help organizations see and understand that risk so that they can appropriately invest in their leaders. I'm a big believer that it all starts and ends with leadership. And part of that mission is to help individuals understand the leadership situation they are in, to help individuals understand how great it is to embrace leadership responsibilities the right way. One of the reasons why I went from executive assistant to managing director in 9 years, one of the reasons why my compensation multiplied so much is because I embraced leadership and took it upon myself to learn leadership, to truly understand what it takes to move people, to influence people, to multiply your impact. Because when you understand how to do that, when you understand how to lead is when you start to truly multiply your impact. When you multiply your impact, when you multiply the bottom line impact, it's very difficult for you to stay almost chosen. It's very difficult for you not to multiply your paycheck. So let me set the scene. Now, I spent my career in finance, and whether you are a VP looking to become a senior VP or a senior VP looking to become a director or an executive director, or if you're an executive director looking to become a managing director, and you find yourself in a situation where you feel like you're just stuck, I want you to go on this walk with me. And let's focus in on where I think this happens the most. Many times, especially in the financial services industry, if you're a great analyst, you'll likely get to the associate level. If you're a great associate, you'll likely make it to the officer level, VP level. And then it starts to become harder and harder. You get to the senior vice president level or the executive director or director, depending on your organization level. These days, for many, that's where the sticking point is. And if you're not in the business, even earlier than that. But let's just focus on someone who's sitting at a semi-senior level, director, executive director, and you have your sights set on becoming a managing director of the firm. If you're in the financial services industry, we all know that's the goal. That's the big title. That is the I made it title in financial services. It is not an easy road, and it has gotten harder and harder and harder. In fact, you may be an executive director that has been told, listen, they're making fewer and fewer across the industry these days. Executive director is essentially the new managing director. You might have been someone who's actually been told that. Now, what you do with that is where it gets interesting. Do you believe it? Do you go home and say, hey, I'm an executive director, which is, I've been told, is the new managing director? I hope not. I hope not, because it's not. It's something you're told when you're almost chosen. So let's just say you are this person. You are doing all the things. You have your review. You're very clear up front. This is a goal of mine. Please help me understand what I need to do to get to that place. Is it a 2-year thing, a 3-year thing, a 5-year thing? And you get your answers. No, I think we can get you there in this time frame. Here's what we need. We need to make sure there's a platform. We need to make sure you have support. We need to make sure you have presence. You need to deliver, of course, but you've always been delivering, so I don't think we'll have a problem there. You need to have a certain amount of people reporting to you. You need to show that you're a good leader and you're developing new talent. All these things. And boy, you sit back and you go, I got this. I have been delivering. I do have the platform. I feel like I'm a great leader. I'm doing the work on my own time to figure out how to be a great leader, how to listen, how to communicate, how to inspire, how to influence, how to simplify, all the things that a great leader has to work at. My team gets more done than any other team. Best bang for your buck. I have support. But there's another angle to that, which is your boss has to fight for you. You could be great, but your leader has to fight for you. They have to write for you. They have to go and have conversations for you. They have to not back down for you. So you go along your year, you get the good feedback, you get your mid-year, good feedback, and guess what happens? You start rolling towards the end of the year, and people start coming up to you. People start saying to you, is this your year? This has to be your year. Has to be your year. You say, well, I don't know. You know, it's not done till it's done, but I feel really good. But hey, it's not done till it's done, and it's a really hard thing. You do all that. Gets closer and closer to the end of the year, and you start to feel like, I cannot see how this doesn't happen this year. And you allow things to happen in your head. Driving home, on the train home, you start to think about the day you've been building your entire career towards. You start to think about how nice it would be to finally get that acknowledgement. All the late nights, all the weekends, all the events missed, it's finally going to pay off. I'm going to get this title that I've been after. And you can say all you want, for all of you listeners, you could say all you want. Titles don't matter. They matter. It's a way of acknowledging all your effort, all your hard work. It's a way of internally feeling like you accomplished a major goal, something that many people don't get. And it doesn't just have to be managing director. It could be executive director. It could be vice president. Whatever your internal goal was, So you allow yourself to get there. You allow yourself to think about the day. You allow yourself to visualize it. You allow yourself to think about the title being in your directory or on your business card or on LinkedIn, changing LinkedIn. You imagine yourself. You imagine it. You start to think about it. And you start to think about what it could mean from a compensation perspective, what it might change in your life. And that starts to creep into your home life. We've all been there. You live and die with your family, with what's going on in the office. They live and die with you. Your husband, your wife lives and dies with the good days, the bad days. Are we going to be able to do this? Can we do that? You're working so hard. I really hope you get it this year. And you don't say anything for most of the year because you've been through it before. But as it gets closer, you allow yourself to open up a little more. And you might say something, I think this is the year. Really? And now it has made it home to the dinner table. And something heavy happens then. And if you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. Something heavy happens then. You now have the weight of not just disappointment for yourself, but you have the weight of disappointment for your family, your wife, your husband, anybody else you tell, your mom, your dad. And you rarely let that out until you feel pretty good about your chances. You start getting a little bit easier with the conversations that you're having with your colleagues, and they say, oh, this is your year. If it wasn't going to happen, you would have been told already. Oh, this person is talking about you all the time. You're indispensable. And, the colleagues don't help sometimes. I mean, I remember when I was going through it, I was seen as a managing director candidate early on. And even when I wasn't even eligible, people would say it. And so when the time came and people were saying it, I was like, oh, please, I hope I get it, because I don't want all these people to come and say, oh, well, you didn't get it. What happened? What's going on? I know some of you who are listening now have been there or are there. And then the day comes and you get called in and all the things are said in the right way, which is, you're very valuable, you're doing phenomenal work, but there's just only so many slots, and it's not going to happen this year. And even they sometimes struggle with the why. So they have to come up, well, we're going to have to get you out there more. We're going to have to get more people pounding the table for you. We're going to have to broaden your role. You're going to have to work on your presence in the room. We're going to have to do all these things. But it starts to get to a place where you're saying, hey, the things you're saying that I have to work on and the places you're saying I have to get to, there are people sitting at that level that aren't even there yet. Those are things that people work on once they get there to further grow and further develop. You're really stretching into that area now. And you don't say that out loud, but you're saying that inside. And the reason is because you can feel it. You can feel it a lot of times from your manager. They're grasping at straws themselves. And so then you have to wonder, did they fight hard enough? Is there a ceiling for them in terms of their influence? Because here I am, another year, almost chosen. I am told how great I am. And I get that and I appreciate that. I know I work hard. But I have to go back home now. Put aside dealing with it myself. I have to go back home now. I have to go back home now and explain that once again, I was almost chosen. And of course, your family loves you and they feel for you more than anything else. But that wears on you. And if it happens more than 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, where now you have acknowledged that this is it. And here's the problem. It is not easy out there. So the answer is not, I'm just going to leave and go somewhere else. No, it's not. But there is an answer, which is understanding the situation and figuring out how to work out of that situation. That's what I want to talk about today. Almost chosen. So many people out there feel this. Well, I'm naming it. You are almost chosen. You're going to take that home. The organization is going to feel that at some point, and I'll explain that. But once again, this comes down to leadership. Your leadership and how they approach it for you, but also leadership of yourself. What are you going to do about it? Are you just going to stay stuck? Because here's what happens a lot of times. You're great. Listen, you're great. We don't want to lose you. This didn't happen, but we'll make it up in other ways. And many times you make it up with compensation. But it's not the compensation that would have come with the promotion most times. It's just enough to make you feel like, yeah, I don't feel great about not getting it. I don't feel great about being almost chosen again. I don't feel great about that person and that person and that person getting promoted, where I know that I'm either at their level or beyond their level, but for whatever reason, I haven't been chosen. I don't love it, but at the same time, I'm getting paid really well, and it's hard out there. So, you know what? I'm going to appreciate what I have, put my head down and keep going. And that's the game. And if that works for you, great. And you feel okay with that, great. But if you're someone who is tired of being almost chosen, if you're someone who is tired of allowing your story to be written by other people, if you're someone who feels like this is creating real resentment and the work that I'm bringing to the office is not the same work I was bringing, because I feel that. I feel that I'm not being appreciated the way I should be. I feel like I'm being capped. And therefore, whether it's intentional or unintentional, the work level, product, energy starts to change. And that's not fair to you, because you're not living up to your brand. You're allowing someone else to write your story. And here's what happens. This is the worst part. When you start to change how you show up, and again, it's many times not intentional, it starts to happen. You start to say, you know what? That can get done tomorrow. You know what? I'll respond tomorrow. You're not showing up the way you are used to showing up. You're not showing up the way you want to show up. And that starts to hurt you. You start to hear that feedback, feel that feedback. And that's how people get perpetually stuck. So, well, you were great. I don't know what happened. The energy started to lower. The effort started to lower. Some mistakes. You're not calling back. You're not responding quickly. This person had to pick this up. And you say to yourself, whoa, what happened to me? That's no good. We can never let that happen. You really start to feel the difference between being appreciated and being advanced, between being needed and being chosen. So your confidence thins and your ambition gets quieter. And then your future starts to shrink to fit the room that you're in. Does that sound familiar? I hope not, but I know it does for a lot of folks. And the reason why I'm naming these things, the reason why I'm saying this, is so that I can help as many of you as possible identify the situation, understand the environment, and get out of that environment. And that doesn't mean leave where you are. That means learn how to navigate it. And if it turns out that you make the decision that you've done everything you could to navigate this environment, and this environment just is not going to be the right environment for you, then you make the decision that you need to make. But again, I really feel like there are ways, if you're really good and you're respected, there are ways to become seen. There are ways to make yourself undeniable. There are ways to get yourself chosen. Even if that includes finding yourself another manager, another leader, going to someone within your organization that knows how to lead, that knows how to influence, that knows how to not back down, that knows how to get you the stage, that knows how to showcase your impact. So let's price almost chosen. Let's do it. Let's price almost chosen. Let's just say you're an executive director and you're in your year. Let's put aside year one where you didn't get MD, right? Most people don't get it in year one. Let's even put aside year two. Okay. So now year one's gone, year two's gone. This is year number 3. Okay. And we're going to just discard 1 and 2. Let's price this out. You get comped at an executive director level. Yes, you get your increases, whatever they might be, 5, 10%, if it's a good year, all that stuff. But when you move up into the managing director realm, or if you're going from a VP to an executive, those numbers change drastically. Those numbers change drastically. And I'm going to be conservative here. Okay. So let's just say you're an executive director and you're year 3, almost chosen. What do you think the comp impact is? Let's just call it, I want to say more, but let's just be very conservative. The difference between what you're going to get in that year not being chosen and what you would have gotten when you stepped up into a whole nother realm, which typically includes a base increase and a different bonus pool in financial services. Easy 50,000. Okay. So almost chosen year 3, almost chosen year 4. And now some of those things we talked about start creeping in, right? You hear the praise different, you're showing up different. So it turns into year 5 and you start to hear, you might be a career executive director. 50,000 times what? Times 2, times 3, times 4, times 5. Is that making a difference in your life? And that is not to mention the psychological side of these things. This is a lot about what I'm writing about in this book. Your confidence starts to erode. You stop leaning in rooms that you used to lean in on. Your ambition starts to fade. People who continue to get passed over stop aiming, and they call it being realistic. That's one of the most expensive mental moves professionals can make. So I want you to think about the numbers, okay? Does it move the needle, 50,000 a year? And by the way, we all know that many times, depending on the role you're in, it could be more than that in a given year when you get a level change like that. But let's just be conservative, right? We're talking 6-figure differences here. 6-figure differences over the course of however many years. Bottom line impact to you. Real money on the table. Lifestyle changes, school choices on the table, neighborhoods on the table. The things that you allowed yourself when you thought you were getting close, the things you allowed yourself and your family allowed yourself to imagine about what might change, that's the cost. And again, then add on the psychological aspects. Add it all on, and it has a price. And the organization pays a price too. For those folks that have started to pull back, well, now you're less productive, the group is less productive, your boss is less productive, the organization is less productive, and eventually some of those folks leave, and now the organization has lost a great talent. That's being almost chosen. Now again, not everybody has these ambitions to get to the next level, to continue to make more money, to continue to have greater impact. Not everybody has that. So if you're one of those folks that feels like promotions and comp increases are nice to have, but you're grateful to have your role and you like what you're making and you like the title you have and the impact you're making, great. That is awesome. I'm speaking to the people who are not happy. I'm speaking to the people who feel like they've given so much and they deserve more and they're not getting it and they're choosing to accept it. That's the totally unacceptable part. That's the group of individuals I'm talking to. This is not for everybody. I saw that firsthand. I had greater ambitions. I wanted to make a big impact. I wanted to feel the appreciation, make the money, get the promotions. I wanted that for myself and for my family, but not everybody did. And that's why I went past a lot of people. But I also met with and saw and today speak with many people who are tired of being almost chosen. That's why I'm writing what I'm writing. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm trying to make an impact. I've had a great career that I'm very proud of, and I've learned so much. And I care deeply about leadership and the impacts it has, not just in the office, but at home. So if you're one of these people that feels like you could and should be appreciated at a higher level with real numbers, with real titles, with real responsibility, and an ability to grow and make bigger impacts, this is for you. By the way, I wrote a playbook for this. It's called Almost Chosen No More. And I go into detail about it. I start with naming the problem, which I did here. I go into greater detail there, laying a foundation of truly understanding what it is to be almost chosen and why. I go into how to understand and appreciate your own self-worth. I think it all starts with self-belief. You have to believe it before anybody else is going to believe it. That includes your boss. That includes your boss's boss. That includes all the colleagues around you that are going to support you or pound the table for you. You have to believe it. If you don't fully believe it 100+%, it's going to be very difficult. I go into owning what happens next, how to be seen, how to make yourself undeniable. I want you to think about how difficult it is. It's very easy to kind of, if you stay hidden underneath somebody's umbrella and you're not out there making the connections and you're not taking the stage and speaking up in the right meetings and making the lateral calls, if you're not being visible, right? I talk about this whole concept of the difference between being humble and hidden. That's in the playbook. You have to take the stage. You have to be visible. If the broader organization fully appreciates the impact you're having, it's much harder to get denied. It's much easier if it's just your boss that knows, because then you're fully relying on that one person to fight the fight. And sometimes that works, but sometimes it doesn't. And you cannot let other people write your story. That's what this is about. So I talk about owning what happens next, not just going along for the ride. When I think about my career, I took the bull by the horns. I knew where I wanted to go, and I was the one that wrote the story. Of course, I had help. None of us gets there alone. I had a lot of wonderful people help me. But there's so much work that you have to do as an individual in order to get that to happen. So owning what happens next is key. Go into detail in the playbook. And I talk about leading where you are. You might not be in this super big leadership position, but there's so much leadership that can be done, that can be had right where you are to multiply your impact, to become super visible, to become super impactful and undeniable. Leading where you are, getting people who don't work for you and don't report to you to move in a direction is maybe one of the greatest leadership skills out there. Think about that. Can you today, in the position you're in, influence people that you don't pay, that you don't promote, to move in a direction, to move towards a goal, to deliver towards a goal? Can you do that? If you can, well, congratulations, because it's very rare. But I talk about leading where you are. And then I wrap up the playbook. I think it's like 77 pages. I didn't mean it to be that long, but I just kept writing and writing. And in my way, I think it's a very easy read, but it's got loads of some of the stories, some of the lessons, and the things you need to do to make yourself undeniable. Almost chosen, no more is what I'm calling it. So if you feel like you are a professional that is done waiting to be chosen and ready to take the wheel yourself, I think this playbook will be really helpful for you. And I'll drop the link in the description and the comments. And let me know what you think. I think you have to ask yourself 3 honest questions. Do the promotions around me actually make sense? Because you might be in a situation where there's excellence all over, and you're going to have to figure out how to level up. I'm a huge proponent of looking inward and solving whatever you have to solve there first. But when you look inward and you're solving and you know in your heart of hearts that you are there, and you look around and the promotions around you aren't making sense anymore, that's a point of clarity. Ask yourself this question: am I being developed towards something specific or maintained because I'm really valuable where I am? And then this last question: how many times have I carried almost home? How many times have I carried almost home? And then there's the paths you can take. Like I said before, sometimes the answer is internal, and you got to own that. And that's very healthy. Understand what's missing, own it, develop it, get there, get past there. And sometimes the answer is environmental. The environment was never neutral, and it shapes your self-concept. Staying too long in a place that undervalues you and you start to accept that valuation. You start to believe it. That's unacceptable. Totally unacceptable. Almost chosen is a choice to stay, but it doesn't have to be a permanent verdict. And the people, the professionals who break free of it, they're not just working harder. They understand the game at a deeper level. They understand that they have to make their value visible. They lead before the title arrives, and they know when the environment is the problem and not them. And for the leaders out there who are listening to this, what can you do? Look at your promotion decisions honestly. Look at how you're paying people. Are you paying for appreciation or are you paying for containment? Look at your development conversations. Are you building towards something or buying time? Ask yourself, am I the leader being talked about admirably at the dinner table? Like I said, everything I just walked through in much, much greater detail is in this playbook. The patterns, the moves, the costs, Almost Chosen No More, the full playbook, and the frameworks are mine, and I share them. I'll put the link in the description and in the comments. I do hope some of you take the leap and invest in yourself and think about the price of not doing so. And thank you for joining me on this episode of Totally Unacceptable. I'm Ed Clementi. Until next time.